I'm in the seaside resort of Weston-super-Mare on the Somerset coast, faces onto the Bristol Channel. We're just panning round from the Grand Pier. I'll show you some of the beachside properties here. Most of it's, of course, Victorian built, like many of the seaside resorts in the UK. Some bouncy castle bits for the kids. Up here is the obligatory big wheel. And we've got some donkeys on the beach here, but no takers at the moment. Right down the far end is a large construction based on an oil rig. It seems to have stalls for development. It was going to be covered in plants and other things, but I think they've run out of money on that. And then we're coming right round to look at the sea again, and it goes out a long way here, as you can see. Just north of the pier we have the Pavilion Gardens, and then the northern front of Weston-super-Mare as it curls round the small bay here. This is the Milton Road Cemetery in Weston-super-Mare. Just inside the gate we can start to see that this is a very large cemetery, stretching right up the hill over there and round to the right here, again as far as we can see. There are a number of war graves here. We can't possibly pick them all out, but we'll show you one or two of them. The first one we see is Private M.E. Carter, Devonshire Regiment, 1947, age 19. Close by is Captain C.D. Earle, 11th Regiment RHA. I don't know if that's the Royal Horse Artillery. Honourable Artillery Company, 1945, age 26. This one has a good clear inscription. Edward Harley, son of B and M Goodwin, 1937, age 22. Then Benjamin Harley, age 77 in 1962. And then Mabel at the bottom, 1977, age 91. You can see here how they're all the way up the hill. A number of war graves up there, I note. Let's carry on up. This one is to Lance Corporal G.H. Davies, Royal Engineers, 1940, age 29. Then the family have paid to put underneath, whosoever reads his name salutes a mighty company. From the Royal Air Force, Flight Lieutenant C.B. Rigg, pilot, 1944, age 28. Underneath, the family have added, in proud and loving memory of Clifford, who lost his life on active service. We've climbed up to the higher point of the graveyard. You can see it stretching away down there. You can also probably make out the man with his strimmer keeping it clear. Get some pretty good views here. The sea is right round to our right. Can't really see it from here, but you can see the extent of this graveyard. Right on the top we have the bigger graves, presumably those that could afford more expensive plots. Everybody likes to be the top dog. On top of this one we have a forlorn looking angel. As we pan down we can see it's Louisa Jane Bonnell, and then further down James Alfred Bonnell. This is one of the largest plots here, so presumably they were of some standing in the community. And almost opposite, a much smaller stone but much more poignant. Thomas Luke Day, 1988, aged 9 months. A little ray of sunshine to everyone he met. We have an elaborate memorial with the angel finger pointing upwards and what looks like a young woman being helped up. The memorial is actually to Julia Mary Callow, who was aged 71 in 1927. Very nicely done though as a memorial. At the top of the graveyard is the War Memorial. This doesn't name the people, but it talks about those that gave their lives and died in France and Belgium and other places throughout the world. This is a huge slab of granite, obviously built to last, several times thicker than most of the gravestones here. Commemorates Alfred James Pollard, 1923, aged 63, and Grace Elizabeth Pollard, 1938, aged 79. Under the trees is this interesting design, 8-pointed star. Inscription is not very clear because it's under the trees, but it seems to be Harriet Spencer. But I'm not clear what the significance of the design is. I'll show you this one. There's something on here that I've noticed on several of the stones. To prevent the stone falling over, they have tied it to some stakes in the ground and some ties around the stone. That's nice to see. In some graveyards, it's the policy to just push them over when they become loose. Here, clearly the management care to keep this graveyard in good order. Nearby is another one that's been treated the same way. An angel in prayer on this one. And underneath we have Georgina Elise Pillinger, 1924. This is unusual in that it looks very much like a lighthouse or a beacon on this memorial, but the inscription gives us no indication why that is. In ever loving memory of our dear father and mother, John Powell Morgan, aged 83, 1925, and Elizabeth Morgan, also 1925, aged 86. Perhaps they just liked lighthouses. This one is interesting because it tells us just a little about the person. George Henry Appleby, Wesleyan Methodist minister, 1926. On this one we learn that the person was late of Ottawa in Canada, and we're looking at Florence Bramhall, the wife of T.H.G. Clune, and she died in 1938. And underneath we have Thomas Clune. There are 9 members of the Chapman family commemorated on this memorial, presumably not all buried in this plot, but we get quite a lot of information. There's one down there near the bottom, died aged 9 in 1949, and one aged 16. We have the chaps busy clearing the graveyard, and we're grateful for them. I've climbed to the high point of the graveyard and then find it extends even beyond that, even further up the hill. Just wandering through the graveyard. How about that? Doesn't seem too nervous of me. Well, I've seen at least 3, possibly 4 separate guys with trimmers keeping the undergrowth in this graveyard under control. It's making the videoing a little more difficult with the background noise, but it's nice to see it kept clear. Very tall one here with the lady at the top with her finger raised, no wings, and it's to William James, late of Ringmore House near Teignmouth, but who died here in Weston-super-Mare. A pair of stones, identical design and typeface. Louisa Price on the left, and mentions her sister Selina further down. And then the red stone, Jane Pallister Price, and mentions her husband beneath that, Hans Fowler Price. A pair of matching stones, but in different colour material. In this graveyard there are not many stones that tell us much about the people, but this one here tells us that William Weston-super-Mare was a staff paymaster in the Royal Navy, died in 1886. An ornate design with the urn on top of a stone with a cloth over it. The inscription is to William James Norman, who died in 1907. The epitaph reads, "Lovely, lovable, loving and much beloved, gifted and accomplished in the highest degree, tender-hearted and forgiving, she was ever a kind and charitable neighbour, a true friend, a faithful and affectionate wife and mother, and a devoted servant of the Lord from her earliest youth to the hour of her departure hence." That's a nice epitaph. Unfortunately the name is not readable, it's on the other side and the stone is rather worn. Edward Warren Caulfield, MA, formerly rector of Beeching Stoke in Wiltshire, 1871, aged 74. A clear inscription to Emily Gould Darch, aged 14 years, and then Charles Darch Jr., Charles Darch Sr., and then Mary, the wife of Charles Darch Jr. And the last surviving child at the bottom, Laura Joanna Darch. Good West Country name, Darch. This is a new stone to someone that died many, many years ago. Police Constable Alfred Pavey, who died as a result of doing his duty, August 1861. We have a war casualty, Bert Mayled, wounded at Ypres and died at Manchester 1914, aged 25. And then beneath that we have his father, who died in 1922. Over there, through the trees, you can see the Chapel of Rest. This is the Charlotte Evelyn, the wife of E.T.H. Bucknell, late of King's Holmes School, 1949, age 72. And then we've got E.T.H. Edwin Thomas Holman Bucknell. He died in 1964, aged 85. This is leaning at an angle, but it's in an unusual stone, and it's left the inscription very clear. Apologies for the background noise. We're up against the road at the very top of the graveyard. In affectionate memory of one of the most loving and devoted sisters, Margaret W.C. Bond, 1871, age 61. This is the main entrance you'd come in if you were coming to a funeral, burial, down to the Chapel of Rest. A.T. Harris, stoker, petty officer, Royal Navy. HMS Russell, 1916, age 38. A grand, tall column right at the top of the graveyard, and the inscription reads to Ernest Samuel Stradling, JP, Justice of Peace, of St Donat's, Weston-super-Mare, Chairman of Weston-super-Mare Urban District Council, 1922 to 27, devoted husband of Annie Stradling. And on the other sides of this memorial we have other members of the family listed. An elaborate tomb with scrolls on each side, and then we've got this these leaves here, and in the middle we read it's to Mrs. Jane Poole, 1860, and round the other side in smaller writing are other members of the Poole family. Quite a grand memorial. Up at the top next to the Chapel of Rest is a special memorial. In this cemetery are deposited the remains of the following Belgian refugees who died at Weston-super-Mare during the Great War. And then we got 5 names listed there, from 1 year up to 72 years. This is one of the Art Deco style stones that we come across occasionally, and at the base we find the dedication to Violet Annie Browning, 1944, and William Arthur Browning in 1950. Next to it is the War Memorial to Flight Sergeant K.P. Barber, Air Gunner, Royal Air Force, 1942, age 20. And on the base of the stone the family have added second son of H.A. and N. Barber, who plucked this flower, the master. The gardener held his peace. The large white and clearly inscribed memorial has quite a number of names on it to the Lalonde family. Of particular interest is Lionel Victor Pollock Lalonde, their second son. He was the second lieutenant of the Somerset Light Infantry. He died in France on active service, 1916, age 24. This is to Ahmed Matta and reunited by Latifi Abdallah. But the interesting bit is on the other side. Clearly Islamic, but I can't tell you any more than that. It's interesting to see the various religions buried next to each other in the same graveyard. Wherever you go in this graveyard, you can see the various war memorials. There's one directly in front of us there, one just over there. There's a couple more down there. There's so many of them. Some information on here we could look up and find the background. Paddy Ramilovic, Raddy, Olympic Games swimmer. Died 1968, aged 82. Just 11 months. And there are some flowers on the grave. 42 years later. This is a fascinating graveyard. It's large, it's well kept, got a lot of good memorials here which are easy to read. I'm really glad I came to see this one. If you're in Weston-super-Mare or down this way, take time out and visit this cemetery. Till the next time.